Welcome back, coin lovers. Today's video is not just about old coins. It's about hidden treasure, forgotten history, and life-changing value. Imagine a small Jefferson nickel that once sat quietly in someone's pocket. And today it's worth $85,000, $55,000, and even $40,000. These are not fantasy prices. These are real auction results for rare Jefferson nickels from 1969, 1975, and 1976. Each coin was born in a different moment of American history, different struggles, different hopes, and different mistakes that turned ordinary nickels into extraordinary collectibles. Stay till the end, because one of these coins looks completely normal. But if you have it at home, it could change your life overnight. Let's break them down one by one. History, rarity, and value, all in one video. Let's start. The year 1969 was not just another date in American history. It was a time of tension, hope, and massive change. The Vietnam War was still dividing the nation. Young people were questioning the system, and America had just placed its eyes on the moon. In the middle of all this chaos and ambition, the 1969 Jefferson nickel was quietly minted. Never meant to be special, never meant to be rare. Yet today, it stands as one of the most valuable Jefferson nickels ever discovered. When this coin was released, it passed through millions of hands. Grocery stores, gas stations, movie theaters, completely unnoticed. Most people spent it without a second thought. But what collectors later discovered is what changed everything. Certain 1969 nickels were struck with rare mint errors, sharp details, and exceptional conditions, making them almost impossible to find today. Time destroyed most of them through wear, scratches, and circulation, leaving only a tiny number in collectible condition. At the center of the coin is Thomas Jefferson, one of America's founding fathers, a symbol of knowledge, independence, and vision. His calm expression on this nickel feels almost ironic, because while the country was facing unrest, this coin represented stability. On the reverse sits Monticello, Jefferson's historic home, a design that had already become iconic. Yet in 1969, the smallest variations, in strike quality and mint marks, created massive differences in value. What truly pushes the 1969 Jefferson nickel into the $85,000 range is rarity, combined with condition. High-grade examples, especially with strong details and minting anomalies, have shocked collectors at auctions. These are the kinds of coins that sit forgotten in collections for decades, then suddenly rewrite someone's financial story overnight. That's what makes this coin dangerous in the best way possible. It looks ordinary. It feels light. It doesn't scream valuable. But somewhere out there, in a drawer, a box, or an old wallet, a 1969 Jefferson nickel might still be waiting. Silent, underestimated, and incredibly powerful. And this is just the beginning. Because the next Jefferson nickel comes from a completely different era, and its story is just as shocking. The year 1975 arrived at a strange moment in American history. The country was trying to stand back up after political shock, rising inflation, and a loss of public trust. People were tired, but life had to go on, and so did everyday money. During this pressure-filled period, the U.S. Mint focused on speed and quantity rather than perfection, pushing millions of Jefferson nickels into circulation. At first glance, the 1975 Jefferson nickel looks common, almost boring, which is exactly why it fooled everyone for decades. Most of these coins were weakly struck, quickly worn down, and ignored. But hidden among them were a few exceptional survivors that escaped damage, mistakes, and time itself. Collectors later realized that some 1975 nickels show unusually sharp Monticello steps, rare strike characteristics, and subtle minting irregularities that should never have survived mass production. These details are invisible to the untrained eye, but to serious collectors, they are everything. Because so many 1975 nickels were used daily, finding one in pristine, untouched condition today is extremely difficult. That rarity, combined with historical timing, is what pushed certain examples to sell for up to $55,000 at auction. It's unsettling to think that while people in the 1970s worried about fuel prices and jobs, a small nickel was quietly becoming a future treasure without anyone noticing. And what makes this coin even more fascinating is that its story doesn't stand alone. The lessons learned from 1975, rushed production, overlooked details, and accidental rarity directly lead us into the next chapter, where America celebrates history itself. And a Jefferson nickel from a very special year carries a value no one ever expected. As collectors began to study the 1975 Jefferson nickel more closely, something unexpected happened. Coins that were once dismissed as ordinary started revealing tiny differences in strike strength, surface quality, and preservation. In an era when most nickels were abused by circulation, vending machines, and daily use, a handful of 1975 pieces somehow survived untouched. These coins didn't just survive, they resisted time. Their edges remained sharp, Jefferson's portrait stayed clean, and Monticello on the reverse showed details that were never supposed to last. Auction houses soon noticed the rising demand, and prices started climbing quietly at first, then suddenly exploding when top-grade examples entered the spotlight. What makes the 1975 Jefferson nickel truly fascinating is how close it sits to a turning point in American coinage history. The mint was learning from its mistakes. Collectors were becoming more educated, and grading standards were tightening. This coin exists in that narrow window where mass production accidentally created rarity, and once that window closed, it could never be repeated again. That's why today, a verified high-quality 1975 Jefferson nickel can reach up to $55,000, shocking even experienced collectors. But the story doesn't pause here, because just 1 year later, America steps into a historic celebration, and the next Jefferson nickel carries a completely different kind of importance. Let's move toward the next part of the story. The year 1976 marked a powerful moment in American history, the 200th anniversary of independence. The nation was celebrating its past, honoring its founders, and reflecting on how far it had come. While bicentennial designs grabbed attention on quarters and half dollars, the Jefferson nickel quietly continued its original design, almost unnoticed by the public. But in that silence, something special was happening. The 1976 Jefferson nickel represents stability during celebration. Thomas Jefferson's portrait remained unchanged, reminding Americans of the ideas that built the nation: freedom, knowledge, and democracy. Because most people focused on flashy commemorative coins, the regular nickel was ignored, heavily circulated, and often damaged. This neglect is exactly what created rarity later on. Only a limited number of 1976 nickels survived in high-grade condition, with clean surfaces and strong Monticello details that collectors value deeply today. As years passed, collectors began to recognize that the 1976 Jefferson nickel was part of a historic crossroads, produced during a national celebration but treated as ordinary money. That contradiction turned it into a sleeper coin. High-quality examples eventually surfaced at auctions, and when they did, they shocked the market by reaching prices of up to $40,000. A coin once overshadowed by celebration became a quiet reminder that history doesn't always announce its value up front. Now here's where things get even more interesting. After 1976, most people believe the Jefferson nickel story slows down. But that's not true at all. The late 1970s and early 1980s quietly created some of the most unexpected rarities in modern U.S. coin history. Changes in minting pressure, declining quality control, and overlooked details started producing coins that collectors completely ignored for decades. These were the years when ordinary nickels were made in huge numbers, yet only a tiny fraction survived in collectible condition. In the next part, we'll uncover Jefferson nickels that people still spend today, coins hiding in plain sight, but with values that can jump from a few cents to tens of Thousands of dollars if you know what to look for. Strong steps, hidden errors, and forgotten mint years are about to take center stage. And there you have it, coin lovers. Three incredible Jefferson Nickels, each telling its own story of history, survival, and unexpected value. 1969 Jefferson Nickel, a rare survivor from a turbulent era, now worth up to $85,000. 1975 Jefferson Nickel, overlooked for decades, hiding minting secrets worth up to $55,000. 1976 Jefferson Nickel, the quiet treasure of the Bicentennial era, now fetching up to $40,000. What makes these coins so fascinating isn't just their value, it's the stories behind them. Each nickel traveled through history, witnessing events, changes, and everyday life, only to emerge decades later as a treasure in the eyes of collectors. They remind us that even ordinary objects can become extraordinary when history leaves its mark. So, whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your coin journey, keep your eyes open. The next Jefferson nickel could be right under your nose, waiting to change everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and follow for more hidden coin treasures and historical journeys. Your next rare discovery is just one coin away.